some of you may not realise the relationship that ASFP has with the IFE. For any of you who've sat a pacifier level 2 or level 3 exam, the IFE, Institute of Fire Engineers, are the examining body that create the exam and mark it, because of course you cannot be the same organisation giving the training and doing the exam. And IFE are off-qual, and they effectively give you your certificate when you pass. So anybody watching this who's got a level 2 or level 3 certificate, it's IFE that run the exam. Part of the IFE is Fiona. And part of what Fiona's been doing is something very, very intuitive indeed, which is IFE, Women in Fire Engineering Networking Group. Fiona, do you want to tell the people that watch ASFP TV, which is quite a lot by the way now,
really?
So don't get too nervous. We actually do get fan mail. Do you want to tell people about, because this is quite a recent thing you've set up, do you want to just give people a bit of an overview of what it's about?
Yeah, so you're right, we're not even a year old yet, but we noticed, I mean, in our pre-chat we spoke about, women in construction, and there's a lot of other groups out there that are doing some amazing stuff, but we thought there was a bit of a gap. There are such low numbers of women in fire, and we wanted to create a safe place to bring those women together, to support and empower them. So Andrea White, the sort of brainchild of the group, approached IFE to start up this networking group. So we have our LinkedIn page, which you can become a member, and because of the enthusiasm...
Would the LinkedIn page be just here?
Yes, there. Okay,
Max will put it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And because of the enthusiasm at FIREX this week, we've just passed 500 members on the group. So it's a massive number of people, not just women. We do allow what we call male allies, so a little bit like yourself, people that are willing to support women in the industry. So we run regular monthly webinars on a variety of different topics, usually presented by, amazing women in the industry. We also run workshops, so whether it's, becoming a member of IFE or looking at training opportunities, and we also do outreach. So I don't know if the camera can pan round. We had a poster competition which we ran to talk about what is a fire engineer, and looking at, I spoke to a number of school groups about fire engineering, encouraging young women in particular into STEM, and we had a little judge off the other week, and another way of kind of reaching that next generation. So we're kind of multi-tiered approach to women in the industry. IFE have shared some of their statistics with us, which are quite shocking. So across all of their 12,000 members, only 7% are females. That's only about 800 and something, I forget the exact number. Lots of students and graduates coming in. The students are up to about 16%, but as you get up the kind of the rungs, so to the member grade, it's only 4% of them are female. So we're really wanting to support women at all levels of their career, but to make their way up and not be too kind of intimidated, kind of imposter syndrome at those upper levels. I forget the statistic. I think it's only about 1 or 2% that are fellows, but obviously that's the kind of pinnacle there.
Yeah, because I think traditionally the IFE was made up of the firefighting sort of engineering community, which of course, and I put myself in the same category, is made up of sort of grey-haired men of a certain age. What I would say to you, Fiona, is that there's a brilliant phrase, and it's called "Old men plant trees of which the shade they will never sit in." So although I may be considered part of the problem, what I do now and what we create at the ASFP with guys like you and women into fire safety and women women in fire engineering is that we are planting those small trees, and for the likes of me, I'll never sit in the shade of them, but I have the benefit of thinking actually we're starting to do something right. So in terms of how someone can engage with this, is this individual membership? Do you need to have a certain number of letters after your name? Because I always love the IFE magazine, because everybody has a certain series of letters after their name, and I must admit, I hope I never feature in that magazine because I don't have enough letters, I'll be quite honest. But is that, is there a barrier to entry?
No. So firstly, completely free and completely open to anybody. Although we are affiliated with the IFE, you don't need to be a member. And yeah, you don't need to have letters after your name. It's really for any ladies within the whole of the fire industry. So you don't need to be a fire engineer. You don't need to be on the IFE Fire Risk Assessors Register. It's really open to anyone. So we've had ladies coming through that just work for companies associated with the fire industry, and they're getting on board as well. So everything at the moment is through our LinkedIn group. So we've got QR codes around our stand, getting people signed up, and all of our communication goes through there. We're hoping down the line maybe we'll get a regular newsletter going out, but keep an eye on the LinkedIn group, monthly webinars, and lots of other exciting stuff going on as well.
And of course, I was recently talking to women into construction because we work closely with them, and most of the ASFP membership is company members, although actually our individual membership is growing. And they will have small, medium, or sort of no HR department. In some cases, I've noticed recently that HR is a phrase that's turning into things like well-being and various other things. HR is quite a hard perception of, nobody wants to be in the HR office. And with them, we were looking at how we can support our members with things like maternity policies, closing the gender pay gap, retention, getting more women into the boardroom, and actually more recently, creating menopause policies to keep ladies in work or supporting ladies while they go through, which, let's face it, is just a natural part of life. Unfortunately, ladies have to bear the burden of that. Guys just don't understand and go to the pub, which is why we're so rubbish most of the time. So is that something that you're looking at and working with these organisations as well? Yeah,
absolutely. We're really champions of those sorts of things. We share insight. In fact, one of our speakers was giving advice on how to negotiate pay rises. Historically, women are really, really bad at doing this, and kind of just take what they're given or offered first time, as well as I share a lot of jobs that I think offer a lot of flexibility. I myself have had to work away from job offers in the past that don't offer flexibility with my young family. Same goes for maternity, menopause. Guys, women have been going through these things for all eternity. It's not new. Why are we just grappling with this at the moment? And in particular, it's these male-dominated kind of companies that I suppose haven't had to until now, or perhaps didn't even think it was a kind of a thing that they needed to. So absolutely raising awareness. That's why we're coming to things like this. So FIREX actually very kindly donated this stand to us. We've already been offered stands at London Build, at the fire safety event next year as well. So really kind of reaching out, and we're happy to work with any companies or anyone that needs help to support women.
And it's interesting because we're surrounded by some businesses which are multi-million pound businesses, which work certainly here, the Passive Fire, because you're right next to the ASFP pavilion, and of course I don't ever remember anyone telling their school careers officer that they want to work in the passive fire industry. Most want to be footballers, pop stars, something like that. Or the closest thing you could probably think to it is maybe an architect, because of course architecture, especially with all the TV shows that are out there, is quite glamorous. And if you become an architect, maybe it will lead to a career in TV. Yes. Like some of them have. So is that something you're looking to try and develop? Get into the schools, get into the colleges, and actually tell people that you don't have to be a footballer, you don't have to be a pop star. You can be something that maybe is less fragile in its length of career.
Yeah, and fire engineering can be glamorous. You can work for some amazing organisations on some amazing projects. All around the globe, really. I've been fortunate to do some pretty fantastic stuff in my career. So absolutely, we're getting out there and talking about that. I've had conversations with companies like Exact that provide apprenticeships. So looking at encouraging women into these sorts of roles. If you can train and be paid for it at the same time, that's quite appealing for especially single mothers and the like. So really trying to look at all different angles of how we can encourage that next generation, boost our numbers even more.
And I think that's actually important, because we've been looking at it at the ASFP in terms of what does the future landscape of the UK's economy look like. Now, some of the people watching this won't remember Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher turned us into a nation of shopkeepers. The country became very service industry driven. We sold off a lot of our significant assets. Manufacturing started to go down. Unlike Germany and some of the Scandinavian countries, where they've continued to invest in manufacturing, continued to invest in apprenticeships, ploughed everything back into the next generation coming through. By virtue of the fact that they are skilled labour as opposed to, dare I say, more service industry labour, their average wage is higher, and that average wage can then cope with the fluctuations in the rise of cost of living in economies. And if you look at the dichotomy we're now in, we've got a predominant service industry-led economy, which is now suffering the fact that we're heading more towards a Scandinavian-style economy, where the cost of living, things do cost more, but they actually have the jobs that pay the wages that copes with that increase in cost of living. We've got a yawning gap being created where we're not actually investing in those jobs with those higher salaries.
And you throw into the mix there the gender pay gap, which means that actually women are already getting paid lower and are struggling more. Yeah, I'm totally. I
didn't mean to get political, by the way, and these aren't necessarily the views of the ASFP, but it was a general observation of where we think the economy may go post-Brexit and everything else. Fiona, thank you very much.
Oh no, thank you. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you. No, and we will always support. I'm a massive advocate of increasing women's opportunities, closing the gender pay gap, and I have to say that not for all the wrong reasons, but for all the right reasons, and not more so than my wife is from Yorkshire, and she's a HR director of an aerospace company. And if she sees this and doesn't see me doing this, I'll be in trouble.
It's not just about increasing diversity in the workplace. There's a theory about diversity of thought. So, I used the example the other day. There was a group of balding white men on the stage, and they've all had similar educations. They all think in a similar way. If we can diversify the brain pool of where we're getting information from, we're going to start approaching problems in different ways, and we're going to come up with different solutions, and that can only be a good thing for the fire industry.
No, and I agree, and I think, yes, this industry is guilty of the 50, 60 something, as you say, balding white hair. I'm glad I'm only one of those two. It's getting further up as I go. But you are right, and I think the one argument to say actually there's no reason not to change, because of course most people won't change unless the result of not changing is more frightening or more negative than change itself. But the whole country has accommodated people working from home, whereas the whole business, not somebody on maternity leave, not somebody going through menopause, not somebody going through some other problem, not one or two people of a team of 100, but the entire business they sent home, and somehow they managed to accommodate them working from home. Now, if we're going to revert back and say, oh well, actually, working from home is very difficult, I appreciate that some businesses may want to get back to the office, get back to the place where the business is centralised, and there is a part of me, being of a certain age, that thinks actually direct conversation, direct engagement with the people in that business, it needs to have that level of engagement. But if we've run businesses for 2 years in a pandemic where most people have been at home, why can't we accommodate people in a new way of thinking?
And it's about being flexible as well. So, okay, a lot of companies say, oh, well, you can still work from home 1 day or 2 days a week, but it's not, that's still pigeonholing people. So make it flexible, tailor it to the